Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint and this is NVIDIA's brand new RTX 5080, the Founders Edition GPU which launches this week. And today we're going to swap out the 4080 Super that I've been using for the last 6 months, fit the 5080 and see how it performs across a few different games. We'll also test out the new DLSS 4 features and see if it's really worth buying. But before we jump in, let me know which GPU you're currently using and if you plan on upgrading this year. Okay, so first up, this is the retail box that it comes in. There's no fancy images or logos, just a plain brown box. And if we open this up, we are greeted with this cardboard case with GeForce RTX 5080 printed on the top. And then if we slide this out, underneath there's a little box which contains a quick start guide on setting it up, along with a braided power cable. Now this cable measures 19 centimeters, which is pretty short and too short for my setup, so I'll be using my own cable later. Then back to this box, and if we slide these two sleeves off, we get to take the top off to reveal the brand new 5080, and this looks awesome. Now coming from a Zotac 4080 Super, seeing the Founders Edition for the first time in person, I much prefer the look of this. Oh, and it's definitely worth mentioning that it's great to see the packaging that comes with this is 100% recyclable, so there's no plastic in here at all as everything is made from cardboard. Okay, so this is the 5080, and what I like about the Founders Edition is how clean and compact it is. The overall design is NVIDIA's trademark metallic theme with dark grey, silver and black, which instantly gives it a more stealthy look. On the top, we've got the small RTX 5080 text. On the front, there's the GeForce RTX text, which does also light up once it's plugged in. There's also the new recessed and angled port, which should help with cable management, as the port is now facing right instead of straight out towards the front. And then around the side, we've got the connections. And that's a 1 HDMI 2.1B and 3 DisplayPort 2.1B ports, so plenty here for 4K and 480Hz gaming. And finally, the bottom side where we've got the two large fans located. I think as far as GPUs go, this looks pretty good and definitely one that I'm excited to get installed. Okay, so as mentioned, I'm currently using the 4080 Super in my PC, and honestly, this has been a great card, but it's time to take this out ready for the new one. Now, I've been using the Zotac 4080 Super, and as you can see here, it's not quite as clean looking as NVIDIA's Founders Edition GPU, but it's still awesome. And just for comparison, here's how the two look side by side, so it should give you an idea of what the two look like if you're swapping from a similar card. But now it's time to slot the 5080 in, fit the screws and attach the power cable to the ports on the front. We'll then get this moved back over to my desk and wait for that moment of truth. You know what I'm talking about. Will it boot up first time with no issues or errors? And voila, we are up and running. The 5080 is installed, we've got power, we just need to make sure that we've got the latest drivers and update any games that we're going to play. Right, so before we play any games today, let me quickly show you the PC build that I'm using. So I've had this for about 6 to 7 months now, and I absolutely love how it's turned out. First up, I'm using the Fractal North XL case with the walnut panel on the front. The idea was I wanted it to look understated and clean rather than over the top. But then inside, I now obviously have the 5080. I've also got 64GB of DDR5 RAM, 4TB SSDs, and the Corsair iQ LCD cooler setup. Now, I normally use this in stealth mode, so all of the lights are switched off, other than the little LCD screen in the middle. But this is how it can look with all of the RGB switched on. And then all of this is plugged into the 32-inch LG UltraGear monitor, the 32GS95UE. And that is a 4K 480Hz OLED, so this setup should be enough to get the most out of the 5080 that we're about to use. But if you want to know more about the whole build and setup, I do have a dedicated video on the channel already. Okay, so some of the games that we're going to look at today include Cyberpunk, Hogwarts Legacy, Star Wars Outlaws, and Alan Wake 2. I'll show you how each of them look with ray tracing on and off, as well as the new DLSS 4 options that we've got. But the first game that I want to test out, and for me is one of the best games to play, is Cyberpunk. Every time that I've played this, I'm always blown away by just how good it looks, especially with everything maxed out. So first up, let's go with 4K and performance mode, but with these settings. I'm also going to start with ray tracing off, as well as DLSS off as well, so there's no frame generation in the first test. I'll show you what the 2, 3, and 4 times do in a minute, and honestly, it does make a huge difference. Okay, so here we go, and this is running in performance mode, and as you can see, we're getting an average FPS of 90. It's going to be difficult for you to be able to see this in YouTube, as you're probably only watching this in 60 FPS, although my monitor is capable of seeing the full FPS, which I have to say looks great. Now we're probably getting around an 8 to 15% increase over the 4080 Super like for like with the same settings applied. Okay, now we're going to switch on ray tracing and essentially max all of these out but without using DLSS. This means we're getting a better image quality, but it does mean the performance will take a hit. And then this is how it looks. So we're getting an average of 50 to 60 FPS in the city. And that's no surprise really, as we're still getting no help here from DLSS. But you know what? I'm really impressed with just how good it looks, but obviously we are now dropping frames as well. And now feels like the perfect time to test out those DLSS settings, which gives us the multi-frame generation with 2 new modes for 3 and 4 times. So there are now 4 options to choose from, including off, 2, 3 and 4. This will insert AI generated frames into the game, in turn giving us improved visuals and smoother gameplay. I'm really hoping this shows for you too here, but here goes. So back into Cyberpunk, here it is running with DLSS set to 2, which means for every frame it is adding 1 AI generated frame. This isn't new and already works on the 40 series cards, but this is giving us an FPS count of around 80 to 90. And as I'm driving around the city, it's clearly smooth, but you can see the FPS count is starting to creep up. Okay, then we're going to select 3 under DLSS and see what FPS we're going to get next. Okay, so we're now seeing about 125 FPS, which is absolutely nuts. This is now adding 2 AI generated frames for every 1 frame that the game creates. This is definitely noticeably smoother than before, and the image is still sharp. But yeah, on first impressions, 3 times looks good. But then we have the top setting, the new number 4 that gives us 3 generated frames for every 1 frame. So literally 3/4 of the frames are now AI generated. So it'll be interesting to see how this actually turns out. Okay, wow. Look at that FPS counter. We're now seeing 160 to 170 FPS. And that's by only changing the DLSS setting from 3 to 4. Nothing else has changed. So we've got all of the ray tracing ultra maxed out and DLSS set to 4. Now next up we've got Alan Wake 2, which is probably one of the best looking games out of them all today. So seeing how this looks with ray tracing on and DLSS 4 just blows me away. So this is how it looks with DLSS set to off and ray tracing off as well. So you can see here we're getting around 60 to 70 FPS. Then if we turn ray tracing on, in fact we're going to set everything here to ultra to really max it out. And then we're going to choose DLSS 4. So these are the highest settings that we can select right now. And as you can see, we're now hitting about 98 to 105 roughly. But again, this is with everything selected on Ultra, and this looks incredible. Just look at the detail as I'm moving around. Star Wars Legacy ran at around 60 to 70 FPS with DLSS and ray tracing was off. It then achieved around 50 to 60 FPS with ray tracing on alone. And as you can see, it did start to stutter a little. But as soon as I enabled DLSS and switched it straight up to the maximum 4, you can see here the FPS count is hitting around 170 and above. That is crazy smooth. And the last game that I wanted to test out was Hogwarts Legacy. I have completed this game on the PS5, but only just started a playthrough on PC. So here's how it looks early on in the game, and as you can see here with DLSS set to 4, it's given us a decent FPS while still looking incredibly good. I'm hoping you can see this as well, but just look how detailed the image looks. And just for testing, here's how it looks if we turn DLSS off completely, but still keeping the other settings maxed out. And as you would expect, the frames do drop a lot, but it just shows how good the DLSS times 4 is here. Now, if I compare the 4080 Super that I've just come from to the 5080, we are realistically only seeing about an 8 to 15% increase across the games that I've played. That's not a huge leap. Now, I'm not sure what everyone was expecting or hoping to see, but it feels like the 5080 is a marginal step up from last year's 4080 Super. And if you've already got one, it's probably not worth the upgrade. But I guess the question you'll want to ask, is it worth it? Is the RTX 5080 actually worth buying? Well, this definitely comes down to quite a few points, and the main one being what card you are currently using. If you're coming from a 4080 Super, I'm going to say it is not worth the upgrade unless you're seriously looking to squeeze every last frame out of your games, or you know you're going to use the DLSS 4. If you've got a 4090, well, the only natural step for you is to go for the 5090. That's going to set you back $2,000, which is a lot. But then if you're coming from a lower end 40 or 30 series card, the 5080 is a great choice. It's half the price of the 5090 and still technically faster than the 4080 Super. But what do you think? Will you be picking up any of the new 50 series cards this year? Or what card are you currently using? Now drop a nice RTX 5080 in the comments and I'll give you a thumbs up for staying right till the end. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my full gaming PC build video next, as it covers everything that went into this build. Well, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and follow me everywhere. Until next time.